Okay, first off, excuse my voice. I'm not very well at the moment. I might cough and whatnot right now. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the state of heavyweight boxing right now. In the long run, heavyweight boxing's never looked better to the critics and the fans anyway. There's If you went back every 10 years, you'll always see some critics pointing out that the division's weak for some era or not. Um, I can find quotes from even people saying the 70s was a weak era. Critics, boxing experts in quotation marks. Any era, but this era, since Deontay Wilder, an American, has a belt, the world champion's British. There's great fighters in Eastern Europe and Europe. Everyone's in Cuba. There's a Cuban, Luis Ortiz is in there. So long term, it's never looked better for heavyweight boxing. Short term, right now, it's in a hell of a mess. I think, like a lot of other people thought, that 2016 was going to be a massive year for heavyweight boxing. We were going to get Deontay Wilder fighting a world-class opponent, and Alexander Povetkin tested positive for traces of meldonium. He's finally been cleared now. Turned out that was a mistake. It was leftovers from last year. And Deontay Wilder then went on to fight Chris Arreola. I was watching a lot of people's prediction videos for that fight, and some people were saying, oh no, this is actually a really good fight. Chris Arreola, he's aggressive, he's determined, he pushes forward, and you've got to look at his KO rate. Look at his KO rate, he's got power there. He is a threat to Deontay Wilder. This is going to be a good fight. And I never made a video, but the thing I would like to point out is, but Chris Arreola had never knocked out an opponent for, I think it was maybe 3.5 years before that fight, which shows something is up. It's not like Chris Arreola was fighting top guys, top level fighters that whole time, that whole 3 years. He was fighting guys he would have knocked out in the past. There's obviously a problem there, and when he actually fought Deontay Wilder, the problem became apparent. He's got no speed behind his punches, he's got no snap. He wasn't tired at the start, but he looked like when he was throwing his punches, he was exhausted. There was just nothing behind his punches. He posed no threat at all to Deontay Wilder. And unfortunately, one of the top boxers at the moment, Deontay Wilder, injured his hand badly. Now he's out till next year. At least as far as I can tell. I mean, I've not read anything for maybe a week or two about Deontay Wilder, but it looks like he's going to be out till next year from what I've read. So that's, one thing. Another massive fight everyone was looking forward to was the Tyson Fury versus Wladimir Klitschko rematch. 2 weeks before the fight was supposed to happen, Tyson Fury gets an ankle injury. At least we thought it was an ankle injury. On Instagram that night, he would post a video drunk, jumping around in a pub somewhere. I thought that was Tyson Fury's way of saying, actually, it's not really an ankle injury, but I don't want to say what it is. Then I read an article, I can't remember how many weeks it was after, saying it was around about that time that the British Board of Control had pulled him up about having nandrolone in the system from 2015. Start of 2015, I think it was. It's quite a while ago. I don't know why it took that long. I actually think Tyson Fury is going to come out cleared from this as well. And now there's problems with the contract, and it looks like they may be going to court. So we're not going to see Deontay Wilder fight a good opponent until at least the start of next year, maybe even later on, because he'll probably have 1 or 2 warm-up fights or whatever. And the top two heavyweights at the moment, Wladimir and Tyson Fury, are probably not going to be fighting this year either. So we've lost some of the fighters. And with Wladimir Klitschko being 40, you need to go in and challenge yourself to keep your reflexes at tip-top level. I mean, after 30, your reflexes start to slow down. So if you're not in the ring I mean, people think, yeah, fair enough, you got sparring though, and that'll keep your reflexes sharp. But it's not the same as going in the ring against somebody that wants to beat you, someone that wants to knock you out. Sparring, you're sparring against somebody, testing your skills, and you're paying him. It's a big difference. You need to get your reflexes sharp by actual fights, and the older you get, the more frequently you need to be fighting to keep them reflexes sharp, and eventually they just fade altogether anyway. So it's not good for Wladimir to be out for a year. Probably it's not good for Tyson Fury either, but it's worse for Wladimir. And the fans all miss out on seeing their. Well, there's massive Wladimir Klitschko and Tyson Fury fans out there, and they don't get to see their fighters in 2016 at all. So the best thing that can happen is Anthony Joshua fights Kubrat Pulev. I've heard of that fight thrown out there. That would be an amazing fight. That would be Anthony Joshua coming up against his first, world level, world class opponent. Kubrat Pulev, great amateur pedigree, lots of fights in amateurs, lots of gold and silver medals in amateurs. Sorry. Kubrat Pulev's got great footwork, great reflexes, fast, doesn't have a lot of power, but he's very underrated, and I would be very excited for that fight to happen. That would really kind of save the year for me, in a way. And the reason I'm not saying Joseph Parker is because Eddie Hearns has already said that they're going to put that fight off to the last minute. It's not going to happen until next year. I think February or March is the longest they can put it off. So hopefully, yes, Joseph Parker gets a good opponent. Maybe Brian Jennings. I would be very, very happy for him to fight Brian Jennings, because Brian Jennings is one of my favourite fighters at the top level as well. And I think he's got great skill, and I actually think he's one of the better boxers out there. So I would like to, and Luis Ortiz, of course, he's been fighting. You can't forget about him. He's been fighting great opponents recently too. Tony Thompson, yes, he's 44, but just last year he was in the top 10 of Ring Magazine and BoxRec. The real top 10, not the WBC, IBF, Mickey Mouse belts, but the real top 10. And Brian Jennings as well. So hopefully he continues this, makes it a hat trick, and fights another world level opponent. So that's what I'm looking forward to this year. That's all I've really got to say.